In 1934, federal agencies told American families to drop the home remedies, give up the home dyes, and stop rendering fat in their kitchens. Modern was cleaner, but here's the twist. The neighborhoods that ignored Washington ate better, slept warmer, and saved more money than anyone else. Number 19 cost pennies and outperformed a product that now costs $15 a bottle. Number 8 used a chemical reaction so simple that no factory has improved on it. These 20 hacks built whole industries on making you forget them. Hit that subscribe button right now. Let us count them down. Number 20. Baking soda tooth powder. Long before tubes of fluoride paste lined drugstore shelves, your grandmother kept a small tin of plain tooth powder by the wash basin. The recipe was 3 ingredients: baking soda, fine table salt, and a few drops of peppermint oil if she had it. She mixed them in a saucer and stored them in any jar with a tight lid. A child wet a brush, dipped it in the powder, and scrubbed. The salt was a mild abrasive. The baking soda neutralized the mouth acids that cause cavities. The peppermint kept things from feeling clinical. A pound of baking soda cost about 10 cents in 1934. A box of salt was a nickel. Together they cleaned the teeth of an entire family for a year. Today, a small tube of charcoal whitening paste runs $8 and contains ingredients that food scientists have been arguing about for a decade. The toothpaste industry now sells $9 billion of product a year in America alone. Your grandmother needed neither tube nor argument. She had baking soda and her teeth lasted into her 80s. Number 19. The patchwork quilt. When a shirt finally wore through at the elbows, or a child outgrew her dress for the 3rd time, your grandmother did not throw the fabric away. She cut around the holes, saved every usable square, and stored them in a basket under her bed. By the time winter came, she had enough scraps for a quilt. Quilting bees pulled women from 3 farms together for an afternoon of stitching, gossiping, and quiet record-keeping. Each quilt held the history of a family. The blue square came from a Sunday dress. The flannel came from a husband's old work shirt. A finished quilt cost almost nothing beyond the cotton batting in the middle, and that often came from saved cotton bowl fluff or torn sheets. A wool blanket from the Sears Roebuck catalog cost $4 in 1933. A homemade quilt cost almost nothing and lasted 3 generations. Today, a handmade quilt sells for $200 at a craft fair, and the textile industry markets brand new throws as heritage pieces. Your great-grandmother called it Saturday work. Number 18. Chicory root coffee. Real coffee in 1932 cost 26 cents a pound and sometimes climbed higher. For families who could not stretch the budget, the answer grew along the roadside. Chicory is a tough, bitter blue-flowered plant that thrives in poor soil. Its long taproot, dug up in the fall, dried slowly in the kitchen window, and roasted in a cast iron skillet until dark and brittle, ground into a coffee substitute that tasted remarkably close to the real thing. Some families preferred a half-and-half blend, even when they could afford pure coffee. The chicory added body and a faint chocolate note. The roots also contain inulin, a fiber that helps digestion in a way no roasted bean ever has. Louisiana families never abandoned the tradition. They still drink chicory blends today and call it a regional preference. The rest of the country forgot. Coffee importers spent decades selling the idea that anything other than imported beans was substandard. Now, fancy coffee shops charge $5 for a chicory blend they call New Orleans style. Your grandmother dug it out of a ditch. Number 17. The mustard plaster. When a child caught a deep chest cold and the breathing turned wet and rattling, your grandmother did not call a doctor at $6 a visit. She mixed dry mustard powder with flour and a little warm water until it formed a thick yellow paste. She spread the paste between 2 pieces of clean cotton cloth and laid the bundle flat on the child's chest under a wool blanket. Within 20 minutes, heat began to build. The mustard contains a compound called allyl isothiocyanate, which draws blood to the surface of the skin and warms the lungs underneath. The mucus loosens. The cough breaks. Country doctors recommended mustard plasters in their bedside manuals until pharmaceutical companies introduced cough syrups in colorful bottles in the 1950s. Suddenly, the old method was painted as primitive, even dangerous. and the AMA quietly dropped it from teaching. Today, a bottle of brand-name expectorant runs $12 at any drugstore and works on roughly half the patients. The mustard plaster cost a few cents and worked on most. Some country doctors still recommend it. Number 16. Tallow candles from rendered fat. When the kerosene ran low and the bill at the general store grew heavy, your grandmother made her own light. She saved the white fat trimmed from beef and mutton in a jar at the back of the icebox. Once she had 2 pounds, she rendered it slowly over a low fire, strained it through cheesecloth, and poured it into tin molds with a length of twisted cotton string suspended down the middle as a wick. As the tallow cooled, it hardened into a candle. A pound of beef fat cost almost nothing in 1934 because butchers gave it away rather than haul it to the dump. A pound of store-bought paraffin candles cost 20 cents and burned faster. Tallow burned slower, through a softer light, and gave off only a faint warm scent that nobody minded by the second night. After the war, candle manufacturers ran campaigns calling animal fat candles old-fashioned and smelly. Today, soy and beeswax tapers run $6 a pair at boutique shops. Your great-grandmother poured 10 of them in an afternoon for nothing. Number 15. Apple cider vinegar hair rinse. Shampoo barely existed for ordinary families in 1933. A bottle of commercial liquid shampoo cost 40 cents at the drugstore, more than a day's wages for many. So your grandmother washed her hair with a sliver of homemade soap, then poured apple cider vinegar, diluted in a basin of warm water, over her head as a final rinse. The vinegar stripped the soap residue, closed the hair cuticle flat, balanced the scalp's natural acidity, killed the mild bacteria that caused dandruff, and left her hair shining without any wax or perfume added. A gallon of homemade cider vinegar from Windfall apples cost almost nothing, because those apples would have rotted on the ground anyway. Today, a salon bottle of clarifying hair rinse runs $16 and contains the same acetic acid in roughly the same dilution as the old kitchen jug. University studies in the last decade confirmed what your grandmother already knew about pH and hair. Vinegar works. The marketing is the only thing that ever changed. Number 14. Powdered milk and its many uses. Fresh milk in 1934 cost 10 cents a quart and spoiled within days even in a cold cellar. Powdered milk cost half as much and lasted indefinitely in a tin set on the back of the pantry shelf. Your grandmother bought a single 5-pound box every 2 months and made it stretch through breakfast, baking, and cooking for a family of 7. She mixed it half and half with fresh milk to extend each quart by a day or two. She used it in pancakes, biscuits, white sauces, and cream gravies where the difference was undetectable to anyone. She fed reconstituted milk to babies and to bottle calves when fresh was scarce or when the cow had gone dry. The dairy industry pushed back hard after the war, marketing fresh milk as superior, more nutritious, and powdered milk as a poverty signal that polite households should outgrow. The pushback worked beautifully. Today, the same 5-pound box costs $28 at health food stores, sold to backpackers and survivalists who think they discovered something new. Number 13. Sourdough and fermented foods. Before commercial yeast packets sat in every grocery aisle, your grandmother kept a small ceramic crock in the corner of her kitchen with a living sourdough starter inside. She fed it flour and water once a day. And in return, it raised every loaf of bread, every batch of biscuits, and every Sunday morning pancake the family ate. The same flour, water, and patience produced bread that needed no commercial yeast at 5 cents a packet. The wild yeast in the air did the work for free. The same principle applied to fermented foods all across the Depression. Sauerkraut, crocks lined cellar walls. Jars of fermented carrots, beets, and cucumbers cost only the salt and the thyme. Beet kvass and water kefir kept on the back of the stove for the warmth. The bacteria that drove the fermentation produced lactic acid, the same compound that probiotics companies now sell in capsules for $40 a bottle. Researchers in the last decade have confirmed that fermented foods support digestion and immunity in ways no pill matches. Your grandmother already knew. She just called it Kraut Night and served it next to the pork chops without making a speech about it. The wellness industry built itself on what she had done for free. Number 12. Cornmeal mush 3 ways. A 5-pound bag of yellow cornmeal cost about 12 cents in 1933 and fed a family for a week. She stirred a cup of meal slowly into boiling salted water, kept it on a low simmer for 15 minutes until it thickened, and within half an hour had hot cereal for breakfast topped with whatever was on hand. Molasses if there was any, a spoonful of bacon grease, and a pinch of brown sugar if there was not. The leftover mush went straight into a loaf pan and into the icebox overnight. By morning, it had set firm enough to slice. She cut thick slabs, fried them in a hot skillet until the edges crisped golden brown, and served them with eggs or syrup on a winter morning. The same loaf, baked instead of fried, became cornbread for supper. 1 bag a meal, 3 meals. Today, polenta in a tube at the grocery store costs $9 a pound. Your grandmother paid about 2 cents for the same volume. Number 11, the punch tin can lantern. When the kerosene jar was empty and a child needed light to read by, or a farmer needed to walk to the barn at dusk, your grandmother saved every empty tin can the family used. She filled the can with water, set it outside in the cold to freeze solid in winter. And once the ice locked the metal in place, she punched patterns through the side with a hammer and a 16-penny nail. Stars, crosses, half moons, the family initial. After the ice melted out, she bent a wire handle through 2 holes near the rim and dropped a stub of tallow candle inside. The light shone through the punched holes and patterns of stars and crosses, throwing soft shadows on the kitchen wall and the porch steps. A tin can cost nothing because it had already held the beans or the peaches. The Boy Scouts now sell craft kits for $34 that teach children the same trick. Your great-grandmother taught it for free in one afternoon. Number 10, hardtack. The bread that never spoiled. Wheat flour cost 30 cents for a 5-pound bag in 1934, and your grandmother stretched every ounce. When she expected a long winter or a son leaving for work in another state, she made hardtack. The recipe was insulting in its simplicity. Flour, water, and a pinch of salt, mixed into a stiff dough, rolled flat, scored into squares, and baked twice in a slow oven until every drop of moisture had left the bread behind. The result was a cracker so dry and dense it could be stored for a year in a tin and still be edible. Soldiers carried it across battlefields. Travelers carried it across continents. Farmers stored it for the lean weeks of February before the cellar food ran out and the spring planting began. Today, artisanal crackers sell for $12 a box at gourmet markets and crumble in a week from the moisture in the air. Your grandmother's hardtack outlasted the journey, the winter, and sometimes the man who carried it. Number 9, beeswax for the entire household. A small block of beeswax cost a nickel from a beekeeping neighbor in 1933, or nothing at all if your grandmother kept her own hive out back. That single block did the work of half a dozen products you would buy today. She rubbed it into wooden tabletops to seal the grain and bring back the shine. She melted it with a spoonful of olive oil and used the salve on chapped hands, cracked heels, and a child's split lip. She rubbed it on the bottom of a sticking drawer to make it slide. She coated the threads of a sewing needle to keep the thread from tangling and the cotton from fraying. The wax is mostly long-chain hydrocarbons that resist water, repel dust, and never go rancid. Today, the same range of jobs would require furniture polish, lip balm, hand cream, drawer lubricant, and thread conditioner. The total bill runs over $40 at the drugstore. Your grandmother had 1 nickel block on a kitchen shelf. Number 7, the hot brick bed warmer. Coal cost $3 a ton in 1934 and burned through fast in a drafty farmhouse. Stoking the bedroom stove all night was a luxury most families could not afford. So your grandmother heated bricks. She kept 4 common red building bricks on a shelf near the kitchen stove. An hour before bedtime, she set them on the iron cooktop to warm. When the children were ready to climb under the quilts, she wrapped each hot brick in a folded square of flannel from the rag basket and slid one to the foot of every bed. The brick held its heat for 6 or 7 hours. The dense ceramic acted as a thermal mass, releasing warmth slowly through the cold night while the iron stove sat quiet. Today, an electric heating pad runs $40 and shuts itself off after 2 hours for safety. The brick warmer costs nothing because the bricks had already been left over from the chimney. The flannel had already been a worn-out shirt. Number 6. Eggshell calcium powder. After the eggs were cracked into the breakfast skillet, your grandmother did not throw the shells away. She rinsed them, set them on the back of the wood stove to dry overnight, and ground them in a mortar or between 2 clean stones until they became a fine white powder. That powder did 3 jobs at once. A spoonful went into the chicken feed to keep the laying hens producing strong-shelled eggs all winter. A second spoonful went into the garden soil around the tomatoes and peppers to prevent blossom end rot, which is caused by calcium deficiency in the fruit. A pinch went into her morning cup of coffee or oatmeal as a calcium supplement for her own bones. The chemistry is straightforward. Eggshell is over 95% calcium carbonate, the same compound sold in over-the-counter calcium tablets at $12 a bottle. Today, organic calcium supplements run $22 at the health food aisle. Your grandmother got the same calcium for free every morning from a shell that was already in the trash. Number 5. The brine crock in the corner. Before refrigeration was common, your grandmother kept a tall stoneware crock in a cool corner of the kitchen filled with a heavy curing brine. 2 pounds of salt to a gallon of water. Into that brine, she dropped pork chops, beef cuts, whole chickens, even fish from the river when there was a surplus. The salt drew the moisture out of the meat through osmosis, locked the proteins shut against decay, and made it impossible for spoilage bacteria to survive. A pound of pork that would have spoiled in 2 days lasted 6 months in the crock. A bag of pickling salt cost 12 cents in 1933. The crock had been her mother's. Today, dry-aged and brined cuts at a fancy butcher shop run $30 a pound. Your grandmother brined a side of pork for the cost of 1 bag of salt and 1 stone jar. Number 4. Sorghum molasses, the universal sweetener. White sugar cost 5 cents a pound in 1933. So families across the South and Midwest grew their own sweetener instead. They planted sweet sorghum cane, cut it down in the fall, ran it through a mule-driven press, and boiled the green juice for hours in a shallow pan until it reduced into a dark amber syrup. 1 mule, 1 pan, 1 afternoon. The result was sorghum molasses. It poured over biscuits, pancakes, and cornbread. It sweetened her morning coffee. It went into pies, gingerbread, and Christmas cookies. It even doctored a dose of cod liver oil so the children would swallow it. The chemistry produced inverted sugars and trace minerals no white sugar contained. Today, a small jar of artisanal sorghum syrup at a farmer's market runs $16. Your grandmother filled a gallon jug from 1 garden row and gave the rest away to her neighbors. Number 3. Pine pitch salve. This is the one that makes pharmaceutical companies nervous. Every family in pine country saved the golden resin, weeping down the trunks of damaged pines. Your grandmother scraped it into a tin can with a stick, melted it gently with rendered fat over a low fire, strained it through cheesecloth into shallow tins to cool into a solve the color of dark honey. She rubbed it onto cuts, splinters, infected fingernails, and the chest of any child with a stubborn cough. The pine resin contains terpenes, particularly alpha-pinene and beta-pinene, that kill bacteria, fungi, and even some viruses on contact. Native peoples used it for thousands of years. Country doctors still recommended it through the 1940s. Then antibiotic ointments arrived in tubes and the old tins disappeared from medicine cabinets. Today, a jar of pine pitch salve at an herbal remedy shop runs $28. Your grandmother made a full year's supply for 1 long afternoon in the pine grove. Number 2. The smokehouse on the back 40. Every working farm had a small wooden smokehouse 20 paces from the kitchen door. Inside hung the family's insurance policy. Hams, bacon, sausages, sides of pork, and sometimes venison, all cured in salt and slow smoked over hardwood for weeks. The smoke deposited phenols and aldehydes that killed bacteria, dried the outer layer into a hard rind, and gave the meat flavors no factory has ever quite matched. A smokehouse cost a weekend to build with reclaimed lumber. The hardwood for smoking came from fallen branches in the woodlot. The salt cost 12 cents a bag. That little wooden building held $200 worth of meat at modern prices. Today, a single artisanal smoked ham at a butcher shop runs $60. Your grandmother walked out the back door and cut what she needed for Sunday supper. Number 1. The threshing crew. The greatest hack was not a recipe. It was rural America's unwritten covenant. When wheat ripened in late summer, no single farmer owned a threshing machine. They cost $2,000. Instead, one machine traveled a circuit of farms, and a crew of 20 neighbors followed it from farm to farm. Each farm fed the crew a noon meal that the wife and daughters had been preparing for 3 days. Each farmer worked the other's fields free. The system was kept by handshake. Nobody wrote it down. The crew showed up, the wheat got threshed, nobody starved. Combines arrived after the war, and the crew dissolved. With it went the assumption that neighbors would feed your family if your own back went out before harvest.